situation. Arguably, Carter has installed what can only be described as linked to a slide showing the safe with dramatic red arrows pointing to the rancher text. Now, I'm not saying Mr. Carter is dangerous. Take chances. What if he's storing automatic weapons? What if children wander onto his property? The room erupted in murmurs. I tried to explain that it was just storage for woodworking materials, but Nancy cut me off. That's exactly what someone hiding weapons would Nancy's face turned crimson. Tom, pay attention. This is serious. Sophia helped me as well. Two she put my own in the slush. But I was moving slow. I'd moved here for peace, not to become the neighborhood riot with misunderstanding about safety. After the meeting, I called Sheriff Roberts to get ahead of whatever Nancy was committing. Let me guess, he said to my heavy side, Nancy Whitaker is causing problems again. Luckily, I wasn't the first to target. Look, Mr. Carter, that she actually does something besides being document everything, install some cameras in your country, let it get Nancy's been like this ever since. So she sees me as they look, staring at me for a show. That's all. It's sad that my members feel safe. That single feeling Nancy was that night. Nancy grabbed wild combination. I woke up in a cold sweat, heart pounding. I know a nightmare without reality. Nancy's obsession with my safety would eventually lead to her downfall and the exposure of something much bigger than this would imagine. The decision to install security turned out to be the smartest move I ever made. I spent the entire next day setting up a three-phase system with night vision and audio. If Nancy wants to play games, I put her while adjusting the platform angle. I'll make sure motion sensors. Shot after hours. I even installed it on the inside, aimed directly at the safe. As I tested the system that evening, I noticed something odd on the playback. Nancy had walked by my property line 17 times that day, each time pausing to stare at me. As she was on mute, gesticulating wildly. The audio picked up fragments, definitely weapons, ranch armory, just like Roger's safe. Roger, I learned later, was her ex-husband. 3 nights later, at exactly 3:17 a.m., my phone exploded with emotions. I probably wouldn't have it. I saw it. Nancy was in my work. At work, using a 10-kilogram sledgehammer. The infrared she conditioned then, it looked like the creepiest thing I've ever witnessed. She started singing every breath you take while raising the hammer. Every breath you take, every move you make, slam, the hammer connected with the safety. Every bond you break, every step you take, slam. I'll be watching you. Slam, slam. She swung with the fury of a woman possessed, grunting her own curses. After about 10 minutes of relentless pounding, she managed to crack the safe and pressed her face to the opening, using her phone's flashlight to peer inside. Wood? It's just fucking wood. Nancy screamed in frustration and echoed through the workshop. She dropped the sledgehammer, clutching her lower back. There has to be more. There has to be. She tried prying the opening wider with her hands, breaking 3 acrylic nails in the process. Damn it, these cost $70. At that moment, Thomas Nancy, what are you doing? 3 in the morning. Spun around. Go back to bed, Tom. I'm handling the situation. Tom looked at the damage safe, scattered nails, sledges. Pine Ranch assessment in progress. Target has large safe marked Ranch Armory, proceeding with standard protocol. The response: excellent. Pine Valley, Oakwood, and Riverside operations all yielded successful property evaluations. Ensure documentation before enforcement action. My hands shook as I scrolled up. The texts went back months, discussing targets and property values and HOA enforcement, resulting in distressed sales. I screenshot everything and emailed it to myself from her phone, then placed it in a plastic bag. This was bigger than just Nancy being a nightmare neighbor. She was part of something organized, something that had apparently hit multiple neighborhoods. But before I could process this revelation, I heard a car door slam outside. Nancy was back, marching up my driveway with her spare phone in hand, Tom trailing behind her. "I know you have my phone, Carter," she yelled before even reaching my door. "Hand it over now, or I'll call the police and tell them you stole it." I opened the door, holding the bagged phone. "Absolutely, Nancy. I found it in my workshop. By the way, how did it get there?" Her face went pale, then red, then purple. "You must have taken it. You lured me in there," Tom spoke up from behind her. "Nancy, stop. Just stop." But Nancy was already spiraling. "I have evidence you're hiding weapons. I took photos. The police will believe me over some stranger who just moved here." He waved her spare phone triumphantly. "HOA board stands behind them. Nothing finished in this neighborhood, Carter." As they stormed off, I noticed Tom glancing back at me. He held up his phone slightly and mouthed what looked like 54 again. What was he counting? I went back inside and reviewed all my footage again, this time focusing on Tom in the background. That's when I noticed every time Nancy did something potentially illegal or crazy, Tom would count and make a note in his phone. He'd been documenting her behavior patterns. The revelation hit me like a sledgehammer to my own skin. Tom wasn't the oblivious husband he appeared to be. He was gathering evidence, just like I was. But evidence for what? Why? As I backed up the videos to 3 separate USB drives and uploaded copies to the cloud, I had a sinking feeling that Nancy's 3 a.m. safe matching adventure was just the beginning. Whatever scheme she was running with this management was about to collide head-on with whatever Tom was planning. And somehow, I was caught right in the middle. I spent that night backing up every piece of evidence, knowing that whatever was coming next would happen fast. Nancy wasn't the type to back down, and with her phone recovered, she'd be desperate to control the narrative. I had no idea just how desperate she'd become. The next morning brought a new level of insanity that I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams. I was reviewing the security footage for the 10th time when I noticed something that made my coffee mug freeze halfway to my lips. On one of the cameras facing the street, I could see directly into Nancy's home office window. She was hunched over her computer. When I zoomed in on the high-resolution footage, I could make out what was on her screen. Photoshop. Nancy Whitaker, HOA president and suburban nightmare, was digitally editing the blurry photos she'd taken inside my safe. I watched in disbelief as she carefully placed images of AK-47s, ammunition boxes, and what looked like grenades among my expensive wood collection. "Holy shit," I whispered. "She's actually fabricating evidence." The timestamp showed this was happening right now, at 8:43 a.m. I grabbed my phone to record the computer screen with my security camera, creating evidence of her creating false evidence. The irony wasn't lost on me. 20 minutes into her Photoshop session, Nancy stood up and began what I can only describe as a rehearsal performance. She positioned herself in front of a full-length mirror and started practicing different emergency call voices. First came the hysterical approach. "Help me, there are guns, so many guns. He threatened to kill me." She shook her head, unsatisfied. Next was the tearful victim. "I'm so scared. My neighbor has weapons. He said he'd hurt my family if I told anyone. Still not quite right." Finally, she tried righteous anger. "I am Nancy Whitaker, HOA president of Pine Ranch. I demand you send evidence immediately." She seemed to like this one, but decided to combine all 3 approaches. For 15 minutes, she practiced her performance, adjusting her tone, adding strategic pauses, even working out where to insert believable sobs. She recorded every second, my jaw hanging open at the calculated manipulation. At exactly 9:30 a.m., Nancy made her move. The security cameras, I watched her pace her living room, phone in hand, taking deep breaths like an actress about to go on stage. Then she dialed. 911, what's your emergency? Nancy's performance was Oscar-worthy. "My name is Nancy Whitaker, HOA president at Pine Ranch Estates. My neighbor Ethan Carter has an illegal weapons cache. I have photographic evidence. He's storing military-grade weapons in a safe marked Ranch Armory. Her voice crescendoed perfectly from concerned citizen to terrified victim. I confronted him about it for the safety of our children, and he threatened to kill me. He said he'd burn down my house if I reported him. Please, I'm so scared. He's unstable and armed. She'd been managing to work into convincing sobs between sentences. The operator listened to details, and Nancy delivered her rehearsed lines flawlessly, adding that I was a loner who just moved here and acts suspicious around children, which was particularly offensive since I'd barely left my workshop since arriving. The response was swift and overwhelming. Within 12 minutes, my quiet street was FBI vehicles, ATF units, and what appeared to be a SWAT team surrounded my property. I was in my backyard, ironically planting tomatoes and trying to feel normal, when I heard the first officer on the bullhorn. Ethan Carter, come out with your hands visible. We have the property surrounded. My hands instinctively shot up, still holding a small garden trowel. Drop the weapon, someone shouted. Even in that terrifying moment, part of me wanted to laugh. A garden trowel was now a weapon. I dropped it and walked slowly toward the officers, hands high above my head. I'm unarmed, I called out, my voice surprisingly steady. There's been a misunderstanding. I have security footage that explains everything. Special Agent Miller of the FBI stepped forward, his hand resting on his service weapon. Mr. Carter, we received a credible threat report involving illegal weapons and threats of violence. We need to search your property. I nodded, staying calm despite my racing heart. I understand, Agent Miller, but before you do, may I show you something on my phone? It's directly relevant to why you're here. He hesitated, then nodded. Another agent kept his weapon trained on me while I slowly pulled out my phone. This is security footage from this morning, I explained, pulling up the video of Nancy's Photoshop session. And this is from 3 nights ago. I showed them Nancy breaking into my workshop with a sledgehammer, her demented singing, the safe damage, everything. But the coup de grace was the rehearsal footage. As Nancy's practice performance played, I saw Agent Miller's expression shift from suspicion to understanding to anger. Wait a minute, Agent Miller said, zooming in on the Photoshop screen and the footage. She's adding weapons to photos? Then his expression changed again as something clicked. Pine Ranch, Nancy Whitaker. He pulled out his own phone and showed it to another agent. Isn't this the woman from the Pine Valley case? In Oakwood? In Riverside? My heart jumped. They already knew about those other neighborhoods. The other agent nodded slowly. Holy shit, it is. We've been tracking false HOA complaints that led to mass property devaluations in those areas. Same pattern every time. Weapons allegations, police raids, property values tank, mysterious buyers scoop up homes for pennies on the dollar. Agent Miller turned back to me. Mr. Carter, I think you just helped us crack a case we've been working on for 2 years. Just then, Nancy appeared at the edge of my property, waving her printed Photoshop masterpieces. Officers, I have the evidence right here. Photos from inside his weapons safe. She was still in character, playing the terrified victim, clutching Tom's arm for support. Tom, I noticed, looked unusually calm for someone whose spouse had just reported a dangerous armed neighbor. Agent Miller walked over to Nancy, his expression neutral. Ma'am, see those photos? Nancy handed the face of the mask, sitting concerned. I took these at great dangerous. See the assault rifles, the ammunition, the grenades. Agent Miller examined the photos carefully, then pulled out a small device. Mrs. Whitaker, are you aware that digital photos contain metadata? Nancy's face twitched slightly. And what? These photos show digital manipulation timestamps from, he checked his device, 47 minutes ago. They were edited on a computer registered to Nancy Whitaker. The color drained from Nancy's face like water from a bathtub. That's impossible. You're reading it wrong. Tom stepped forward then, his voice different from the mumbling, sleepy persona I'd witnessed before. Actually, Agent Miller, it's quite possible. Nancy, why don't you tell them about Pine Valley, or Oakwood, or Riverside? Nancy spun on him, carefully performing his prompting. Tom, what have you been doing? Tom pulled out his phone with a slight smile. 54 times, Nancy. 54 times in 2 years you've broken into properties. I've documented every single incident. The silence that followed was deafening. Nancy looked between Tom, the agents, and me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of